if I were to go and co-host a property that makes $60,000 to $70,000, I'd be making $12,000 to $14,000. Oh man, you're really blowing my mind here.
Once we hit 15, got real, Rob.
I don't understand why this is not the most popular thing in the world right now.
It's my goal of this video to open your mind and show you how much money you can make on Airbnb without owning any property, without bearing all the risk. And no, I'm not talking about rental arbitrage. I'm talking about something much, much bigger than that. And I don't understand why more people aren't screaming from the rooftops about co-hosting. And if you watch until the very end of this video, you'll understand exactly why I think this is gonna be one of the biggest opportunities in 2023 and 2024 for people that wanna break into the business. So much so that I brought in an expert to talk about how she built a co-hosting business that makes her $50,000 to $80,000 per month amidst the Airbnbust and Airbnb is dead headlines and alarmism you see every single day. So listen to what Mercedes has to say, because I promise she will blow your mind on today's episode of Rob Built.
Mercedes Sanchez, welcome to the Rob Built channel. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Rob?
Good. So I wanted to bring you onto the channel because a lot of people think that to get into the world of Airbnb, you have to own property, you have to have money, you have to be a trust fund baby that can buy houses. And I think we know that that is not necessarily the truth. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you do and how you've built such an amazing Airbnb business?
Yeah, so you're 100% right. You don't need to be a trust fund baby. I started this business when I was laid off from my job with no money coming in. I'm not a property owner, and we're basically utilizing other people's properties to make money. So yes, it's 100% doable, but I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is more like a marketing agency, hospitality business versus a real estate business. So it's really about how you treat your clients and you treat your guest to be successful.
Absolutely. And so your niche within the Airbnb space is co-hosting. So tell us, what does co-hosting mean? And I'm sure there are a lot of people at home that probably equate co-hosting to property manager. So walk us through that a little bit.
For sure. So co-hosting is essentially, we are the face of someone else's Airbnb. So we are doing everything from pricing it out to marketing on platforms like Airbnb, booking.com. We are then managing the whole operation of that B&B, but primarily people hire us for more exposure, to make more money, and honestly, to really make that passive income. So what we do is not passive. I'll say that. Co-hosting is definitely not passive income.
It's passive for the owner.
Passive for the owner, but that's okay because we market ourselves as an asset to their business. And biggest thing, it's very different state to state. I don't know what it is like in Houston and Texas, but in California, to be a property manager means that you are actually collecting the rent, collecting the funds, and then distributing that money to the homeowner. So for us, legally, our homeowners get all the money up front, and then we bill them at the end of the month for our services.
Okay. And so if it's a property manager, you collect the money and then remit payment to the owner.
Yep. It's just like if you rent an apartment and you pay that property manager rent, and then that property manager is probably allocating those funds to the owner at the end of every month.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yep.
So that is like an important nuance between co-hosting and property management.
Huge.
Because effectively, if you want to be a co-host, you can pretty much start this business anywhere so long as you're kind of falling within that co-host umbrella.
100%. Yeah. You
Cool.
can co-host remotely, you can co-host in your backyard, wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you find a really great client.
Yeah. So there's this really big opportunity. I mean, it's not like it's new. It's just one of those things that I'm always shocked that people aren't screaming about this business model more, because you see all the TikTok and Instagram and I don't know, Airbnb gurus that are like, you can get one Airbnb and you negotiate with the landlord and you could make $1 million a month and have a Ferrari just like me. And I'm like, I mean, the business model is fine. I've got my problems with rental arbitrage, but co-hosting, the way I understand it is you basically go out and instead of pitching the landlord on the concept of renting their place on Airbnb, and then you run it and then you're on the hook for, the rent, the furniture and all that kind of stuff. That's the rental arbitrage model. Co-hosting is you're going to existing hosts or landlords that want to convert their long-term rentals into short-term rentals. 100%. And then you manage it. You do the day-to-day and you charge a management fee, right?
That's exactly it. So we are not on the hook for making mortgage, for making a rent. We don't have utilities in our name. We don't have nothing in our name. So this is kind of like a great way to it's kind of like scammy.
Don't say that on here.
No, I'm just kidding. It's not scammy, but it's hilarious because we are making all this revenue coming in, but our name's not attached to anything.
Sure.
But a contract between us and the homeowner.
Hey, really quick, this video is about to get super juicy, but before we get into it, I just wanted to say a quick reminder that my Black Friday deal / Cyber Monday deal ends tonight at midnight, technically at like 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're interested in joining Host Camp, this is the best deal I've ever done. It is a buy one, get four program deal, meaning when you enroll in Host Camp, you're also getting access to 3 other programs that teach you the entire business from using other people's property, OPP, and other people's money to start, optimize, and scale your short-term rental business. And like I said, it ends tonight, but I promise you, it's a dope deal because we're doing like a 4-week boot camp in December. It's like a whole thing. I'll leave a link in the description down below for you if you're interested in enrolling. Otherwise, let's get back to Mercedes' amazing story.
What you're saying is you just don't have the liability, right? Because
There's
with
no
rental
liability.
arbitrage, like you're basically going out with rental arbitrage and you're the person on the lease and you are effectively responsible for whatever happens in that property. Granted, there's insurance and there's landlord insurance, but you're on the hook with it.
Yeah.
And then with co-hosting, it's all still on the landlord, landowner, homeowner. You're just managing it and you're just providing the concierge service to get people in and out of the home, basically.
100%. The biggest thing we're liable for is our cleaners and our maintenance.
Sure. Okay. So tell me about that. What would you mean? What do you mean by that?
So for instance, if a cleaner doesn't do a great job and the homeowner walks in and he's like, my place doesn't look as good as it could be, we're going to get we're going to get in trouble for that. So we are liable for that. Or if someone falls, right? If like a handyman falls off a ladder, we are liable for that because we are contracting him versus the homeowner's contacting him. So those are a little like something you are liable for, but that's just, you're running a business at the end of the day. So you have to be obviously knowledgeable about those things.
Totally. And it's pretty similar liability as almost any other business that like any other brick and mortar. So
or arbitraging.
Or arbitraging. Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the money and some of the revenue potential with co-hosting. How do co-hosts make their money on Airbnb?
So we charge, every co-host is in differently. I've talked to many co-hosts and everyone kind of has their own way of running their own business, obviously. But how we do it is we charge either a 15 or 20% commission off of the net. So you know that bold number that the Airbnb host gets after every payout? That's the number we're taking a cut from.
Wait, wouldn't that be from the gross then? Because the net would be basically like if the homeowner, after all their bills, they make $1,000 and you charge 15 to 20%, that would be the net, no?
No, so we charge off the payout number.
Okay, got it.
So that bold number that the host payout, nice and bold, that's what we're taking our commission from. So yes, that also includes the cleaning fee.
That's what I was about to ask. So dang, if you are charging like, because I know you manage some big properties, if you're paying your cleaners 10 or 15 grand a year, you're basically still making your 15 to 20% on that.
100%. And the reason why we do this is because since we have grown and we have 50 properties that we're juggling, we actually supply all the consumables to make it a lot easier on our operation. So that is a huge incentive. And additionally, the cleaning fee is a great negotiation tactic when you're making these really good bookings. So let's say somebody wants to stay for 7 nights and they're like, give me a discount. I could easily say I'm going to waive a $200 cleaning fee and still make that heavy nightly rate. So also that's a really good way to negotiate some really great bookings.
All right. So I don't want to gloss over the fact that you just said that you manage 50 properties. So we're definitely going to jump into that. Before we talk about how you get to 50 properties, can you just briefly walk us through how you get to your first 1 to maybe 10? Like, how did you get started? Because like having 50 properties seems unobtainable to literally anybody listening to this right now.
It's totally doable. And I think the first one's your hardest. Like any business, your first contract's obviously the hardest one. I picked my uncle, who is a very old school landlord, and he was so against Airbnb because obviously every older landlord knows the bad side of things, but they don't see the benefit of Airbnb or short term. So long story short, we pitched it to him and he's like, okay, let's see how it goes. Let's just say he's on his 3rd one now. He loves it. He loves it so much. And for us, our pitch is really important. We're in California where there's not a lot of landlord like rules. It's a very tenant friendly state. So right then and there,
sure is.
If we use that as part of our pitch, we tell them like, you're not going to get stuck with a person there for 7 years paying the same amount of rent, right? We're always flexing the prices. Like there's a lot more opportunity. You could also go in and make renovations slowly. You could check up on your property. So we use a lot more about like what the home and what the home has is part of our pitch.
Well, that, and I'd imagine that there's a lot more upside for a landlord too, because if you think about it, like let's say market rate is, I don't know, $2,000 a month to rent a place. But we know that typically if you were to rent that same place on Airbnb, you're probably going to make 2 to 3x that.
100%.
So $4,000 to $6,000 a month. And then let's say it's, $5,000. We'll just go in the middle there. Then you're going to charge 20%. So that's $1,000 a month. So now this landlord is looking at making $4,000 a month versus making $2,000 a month. So it provides just a massive opportunity for the landlord. They don't have to worry about the tenants like squatting. We know that you're going to get it professionally cleaned and managed. You're the, you want to make more money because then the more you gross, the more you make on your revenue. So it's like, seems like a pretty win-win scenario.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation. And honestly, when we're pitching our clients, we're so honest with them. Like we tell them like, we're in this to make money too. Like we want you to make a lot of money. We want to make a lot of money, and we work with them. And we honestly understand their financials and see what their past is and like what they've been making. And obviously we try to exceed those.
Yeah. So you mentioned the first one's your hardest one to get. You know, you pitch someone internally. Obviously your uncle, that might give you a little bit more of a wedge in, but then what about clients 2, 3, 4, and 5? Like, tell me that
Great
story.
question. So those, we basically made like a very bad case study, and we went on Facebook groups like LA, Los Angeles host or Los Angeles Airbnb groups, and we started pitching our services. But before we even got like our really first co-hosting client, we were just like their cleaning manager. Like she just wanted somebody to like manage the cleaners, manage the maintenance people. Like she didn't have time for that, but she enjoyed messaging the guest, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. It's a weird, I don't know, like a weird Frankenstein version of co-hosting, it feels like.
Yeah, it's a weird thing about co-hosting, but it got our foot in the door. And honestly, we learned so much about the operation of running a home, right? We learned a ton from that house. We still work with that house to this day. So we really just started like pitching owners on those Facebook groups and like offering our services as an asset to them. And quickly we started picking up clients, or a lot of our clients came from like last minute necessity. Like I have to go out of town and I have 3 reservations and I don't know how I'm going to handle this. So we picked them up for 3 weeks, and then they saw how good we were, and then they signed a whole contract with us. So we've done it that way as well. When you're trying to co-host, if you have the time and you have like the resources, like I think 100% you should do this, because you never know what like that one task or that one little assignment is going to lead to.
Totally. Yeah. I imagine there's a word of mouth component to this as well.
Yeah.
Where if you're hosting for, I don't know, 5 people, they're all going to tell their friends like, holy man, I'm making way more than I would be with like local rents or like a market rent or whatever. Right.
Oh, 100%. At this point, like we're super blessed. Like we're a lot of referral based. We also started posting like everything on our TikTok, everything on our Instagram, and we've gotten really good leads from TikTok and Instagram too.
Super cool. So you mentioned at the beginning of this, not a passive job. I mean, we know that Airbnb, especially at your scale, can be really quite the job, right? I think if you've got like a few, you could definitely streamline your Airbnb business and have a pretty good life where you make a couple $1,000, but you get to 50. What does that operation look like? How many assistants do you have? VAs? Like, what does that operation look like?
I will say, Rob, it gets easier. Like the more, because you said we're streamlined now, right? So like the more properties we had, the easier our job got in like the weirdest way, even though we were more busy. But yes, everything's pretty much streamlined now. I will say the biggest thing is all of our cleaners are in-house. So we work with like 5 to 7 core cleaners, and we're on rotation, right? Like they know to submit their invoice on Sunday. They know they get the schedule on Friday. Like we have a cleaning manager. So that right there is huge. Like that part of the operation is turn and burn, which is awesome. And then we have VAs. So we do have guest communication VAs, and they're super awesome. So someone is on 24/7. And that's also something that when you are pitching to a new homeowner, letting them know that someone is there overnight is a huge thing. It's huge. And I know there's so many co-hosts who like maybe you're just getting started and you can't afford a VA and you're like sleeping by your phone at night, like stressed out that like something's going to happen. Like we've all been there.
I still get my messages.
100%. But as soon as you see some revenue coming in, getting that overnight, that's such a game changer. You'll be so much more productive.
And they're not really all that expensive. I mean, we're onboarding a VA right now, and they're like $960 a month for 40 hours a week.
That's pretty much, yeah, we pay anywhere from like $800 and $900 a month right now.
Okay. All right. And really the purpose of the overnight VA is it's not like they're going to be the ones that are like putting out fires and like doing too much. The idea is if someone reaches out at like, I don't know, midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. and they say, hey, where the battery's at, the VA is just going to like go to their boilerplate thing, or they'll say, hey, I got your message. I don't know the answer right now, but I will let you know by morning kind of thing.
100%. A guest just like wants to be heard and like wants to make sure that the message got sent. So yes, it's just there for like guest convenience, to be honest. And you made a great point too. So now that we're streamlined, we have like SOPs, right? And this is something we started way too late. I was at like 27 properties without one SOP.
What is the SOP?
System operating procedure. You guys, 27 things in my mind. I was the only one who knew things, and like AI, like literally that was it. So we had to backtrack all these properties and make SOPs for all of them.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, those 3 months of backtracking have like helped us out so much, because now when we onboard a new assistant, a new VA, they have everything right there in front of them. And like it minimizes the questions they're asking us to run the operation. So even if you have one property, just make a SOP.
Right. And so it's effectively you're creating a checklist for every single property. Like,
Yes.
What's the model refrigerator? What kind of lights do you have? Are they LED? What's the model on the TV? Do you have a Roku? What kind of keypad do you have? And basically putting together everything there is to know about a property so that you can hand it to a VA, give them a guide or a template, and then they respond on your behalf. And then you can kind of just not relax, but kind of attend to the rest of the business.
100%. The guest communication portion is like the most time consuming aspect. But if you're stuck communicating with guests and cleaners every day, like your business isn't really going to grow so much.
100% agree. So let's get into what everybody really wants to know, and it's the money. Obviously, I think you probably, from my understanding, you manage some high-end places, but can you give me a range of what like a typical property could make in your portfolio? It doesn't have to be a specific one, but just like on average, what do you see?
Our average is like $1,800 a month on commission.
Okay. Oh, like that, your 20% fee?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So then that would just, on average, your properties, they're kind of in that $6,000 a month range, probably.
Oh yeah. That's like
gross.
the low. Yeah. That's like the lower end, to be honest, which we're very thankful for. But even for like our 1 bedrooms that got like $4,000 for like midterm, like that's like $600, $800. It still adds up. That pays for our VA for the whole month. Right.
Yeah,
so it's really nice to still have those little ones.
So on average, $1,800, not quite 2,000, 50 properties. I mean, I would imagine, obviously you've got your cost for your property, but like, is that $80,000 a month, something like that?
Yeah, give or take, it's 50 to 80. It's a big number, but what I will say is it's very labor intensive business, especially once you get to 50 properties. We have quite a big, like we have a big team, like we have boots on the ground that comes from our commission. So we have to pay our inspectors. Sometimes we throw in extra for our cleaners, right? Because like we know these are big houses, we know things happen, like we cover that. Like they have us, we have them type of thing. Like that's the way we run our business. So we have a lot of expenses, a lot of consumables. They're bigger houses, so it's more that goes into it. Thanksgiving is coming up. So we have bought like champagne, Martinelli's, chocolates, flowers for all of our big houses. All those things add up.
Yeah. Okay. I see. So yeah, 50 to 80K a month fluctuates based on how good some of those months are, but you have staff and you've got some hard costs like consumables and nice champagne occasionally. And then basically with the cleaners, you're saying if you ever have like a big party that wasn't supposed to be there, one cleaner's not going to be able to like clean it up in 4 or 5 hours before the next check-in. So you got to hire some backup.
Or even like sometimes we don't like to do it, but we'll have a same day check-in, check-out of a big house. So that means I usually send like our assistant over. She's helping put small details there. She's making sure everything's still there. Like she's checking the SOPs. It takes a village for these big homes.
Yeah. So that's, oh man, you're really blowing my mind here. I mean, I know you got your costs, but it seems like you do okay. Like $1,800 a month per property. You've gotten 50 properties. How long did it take you to get to 50 properties?
I would say it took us about like almost 4 years. So when someone asks us like how often we onboard a home, I give or take, we do like 1 home a month.
Okay. That's crazy. And then
that sounds like not like, it's funny because in the co-hosting world, that sounds like a lot, but in a business aspect, developing 1 client a month is kind of on the slower end. But you have to remember there's a lot that goes into like building a co-host relationship and to getting a house onboarded properly. Yeah.
And you also, I'm sure at this point, you're probably a little bit more selective about who you're bringing on.
We're not selective about the property size. We're more selective of the owner.
Sure.
It's just really important that the owner understands our vision and understands that like guest comes first and we're not going the cheap route. And we want to make sure like the product is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've done 50 properties in about 4 years. Is it like a snowball? Like was the first year like 3 or 4 properties and then the next year was 10 and then next year's 15? Like how fast does this business start to like build up and accrue more clients?
Yeah, great question. Once we hit 15, like got real, Rob. I think that's why we didn't have SOPs until we hit like 30 properties because we were like, go, go, go. We got to onboard these houses. And it was also summertime, which is like the most busy season for us. And it was go time after 15 properties. It was insane. And I will say we've kind of slowed down a little bit. We always slow down end of the year, kind of crickets for onboarding new clients. But as soon as like the next year rolls around, like we already know spring is going to be really busy.
Do you happen to know what the biggest reservation you've ever gotten / like the most you've ever made just from one reservation reservation? Do you know that number off the top of
coming
your
up.
head?
It's coming up. It's New Year's Eve. It's this New Year's Eve that's coming up. It's like a $12,000 reservation. It's in our new Hollywood Hills home. It's insane.
And you're going to make 20% of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That is not bad.
And
That
we
is
are
not
going
bad.
all out for this reservation. Like, we are putting balloons in there. We're making it like party central for them. We are going to go all out for this New Year's Eve reservation. It's going to be fun.
The only problem is you won't get to enjoy New Year's Eve because you're going to be dealing with all the whiny guests when something goes wrong.
You know what? He has like a million 5-star reviews. So I'm just hoping he's just going to enjoy the house.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because 20% of that is $2,400 that you'll make on one reservation. And the reason that's funny to me is because, like, as an Airbnb host, just owning property and rental arbitrage, like $2,400 is a great reservation. Like, I'm happy to just make a $2,400 reservation, and you are just making that without all the costs and the stress. And that's sort of what I want everyone at home to understand is, like, again, I understand that rental arbitrage is totally like a viable option for people that want to get into Airbnb.
100%.
I just don't understand why that is like the hottie, and then like co-hosting is just like the child we all forget about, you know? And that was weird. Those are two weird hottie and weird child, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, one is like the golden child, and the other one is like, I didn't even know that it's like the dog that's like the dog that everyone likes but is always asleep, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a cute, I like when it comes and licks me. Okay, this got weird, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's like kind of weird to me.
I think with arbitrage, I think it is a great way to gain revenue. But for me, for arbitrage, even for a big house, like when you run the numbers after your expenses, because you have to furnish that place, you have to deck it out. You know what I mean? You're maybe making like $800 to $1,200 revenue, maybe on like a 3-2 after paying rent, utilities, furnishing costs, cleaning costs, consumables,
and being on the hook for bad months, right? Like, I'll give you an example of my best arbitrage unit, which is a good one. I've got an arbitrage unit that costs it's $3,300 a month. It's a luxury townhome, and it costs us about $20,000 to furnish and get ready. And then I think we got like 3 weeks free rent. So I want to say all in, it was like 25,000, right? Something like that. And in our first year, we will probably make about 20,000, I think, like somewhere in there. I'd have to look at my spreadsheet, but it's kind of funny because that property is going to gross 60 to 70,000, and I carry all the risk, right? Like, I have to, if I don't make enough money that month, I pay for the mortgage, right? And I have to go out and pitch a landlord and get them to like understand Airbnb. Whereas if I were to go and co-host a property that makes $60,000 to $70,000, I'd be making $12,000 to $14,000, and I wouldn't have to worry about all the stress of like buying furniture and like paying for it myself and being on the hook for bills and utilities. Oh my gosh, it's just like, I don't understand why this like is not the most popular thing in the world right now.
I know, it's kind of nuts. And I will say with like the co-hosting and arbitrage, like we have gotten inquiries from people who are arbitraging who are looking for a co-host.
Okay, so they're like arbitraging the entire operation to a co-host?
Well, because I think they want passive income. So then they'll hire a co-host. But when I sit down and do those consults, they will be making no money.
Yeah.
So it's
and then you just go straight to the landlord. You're like, hey, don't talk to that guy. Talk to me.
Come to me. I'm actually you know what's so crazy? We have gotten clients who they have been pitched the arbitrage, like what? Like, let me rent your house and then whatever.
Yeah.
And something like clicked in their mind, and then they have found a co-host to do Airbnb themselves. So like, you know what I mean? It's kind of funny how it works.
That is funny because oftentimes that is one of the big objections I get. Because I don't want to poo-poo arbitrage too much. I just think it's not as good as co-hosting, and there are other better ways to get into Airbnb. But it's a way. So I'm going to talk about this for a second. And like, the biggest objection I get from people is like, when I'm calling landlords or when I'm teaching it, they're like, well, why wouldn't the landlord just do it themselves? And sometimes the landlord does tell me on the phone, like, why wouldn't I just do this myself? And I always say, well, you're not, or else you wouldn't be taking this phone call. Like, you've never done it before. So it's actually kind of funny that there actually is a small percentage of landlords that get off that call with me and they're like, that guy just made me a ton of money and he doesn't know it. And then they go to a co-host.
Otto is going through it right now. I'm just going to give him a bone.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry. Just one second.
Click the like button for this dog right here.
Yeah. Otto. He's going crazy.
That's okay. In the movie Magic World, people don't even know that ever happened.
I know, he was growling.
Except that it did, because the only way that joke is funny is if we left the original part of this. Meta. Okay. So let's carry on here. So I think we've established co-hosting is a really cool way. So let me ask you this: for someone that wants to get started in the world of co-hosting, how could someone build a business that if someone wants to make, let's just put a number out there, $5,000 a month co-hosting? Can you give a couple of tips how someone might approach sort of locking down the first client, and how would they approach mathing out how they make $5,000 a month doing this?
So the first thing is you have to get your client. And I think when you pitch your service, you want to make yourself sound like you're the benefit to them, because these landlords or these homeowners, like they've kind of heard it all. Like, they know what's going on. They own all these homes, but you want to pitch yourself as like a really great service to them and be their partner in this. And then once you get that contract signed, right, you want to make sure you're also like a resource to them and you're educating them on B&Bs, on like your direct booking website. Like you want to make sure they stay really informed of about what's going on and the type of guests that you're going to, potentially bring to their home. So I think it's very important when you're pitching and you're onboarding to have like those very clear communications with your homeowner instead of kind of just like pitching them and then like get it going. We have very personable relationships with all of our clients and they seem to really like that aspect about it. And then if you want to make $5,000, I think you might need like 2 to 3 properties, just depending. Because typically it's doable. Typically when you pitch, you want to maybe pitch the single family homes, like the 3-2 is like the best type of home to have, right? It's great. And also when you're pitching, you want to make sure that you are maybe utilizing your design aspects, like really make sure they understand what to put in the home before it's too late.
Sure.
So if you want to make $5,000, find a really great landlord find a really great homeowner who has a really nice 3-2 vacant house, or maybe it's furnished and it just needs a little facelift. And you just guide them through that process and make sure you're there for them and start getting some clients in. And Rod, I was going to say, also know about your permit process. Like make sure that the house important. You're pitching, you're able to actually do like short term there.
Huge. I was going to say, I mean, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do, if you want to make $5,000 a month, you got to reverse engineer how much you're going to gross to make that, right? And so if you just multiply 5 times 20%, $100,000. So if you can find a property, like a single property that makes $100,000 or two $50,000 properties that make $100,000 together, 20% of that is $5,000 a month. And it's really just, wait, is that true? Or is it $5,000 a year?
Well, no.
Oh, it's $5,000 a year.
But it's also really great that you're talking in year terms. And I think that's super important too, because, there's slow seasons and there's high seasons. And it's really important to, I think, talk about the yearly income. Totally. It's more attractive to your potential homeowner versus a monthly rate. And that is something that we've actually switched in our pitching process as well. Because before it'd be like, oh, like your house can bring in anywhere from like $7,000 to $10,000 a month. But now, it hurt us. October was not good. We've had some homes that made half of what they're used to making, but they had a killer July. So for us, we don't want to like have the wrong expectations for our homeowners. So a yearly is better.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So if you were going to math this out, then it would really be 20% of 100,000 would be $5,000 a year. So you just need to do that 10 times, right? So basically, if you can go out and build a book of business that is, I guess, like $1 million a year in revenue, then you'll make about $50,000 to $60,000 a year managing that book of business without owning any of that real estate.
Yeah. And you could 100% do this as, if you only have 1 or 2, 3 properties, you could 100% still do this on top of your regular job, on top of being a real estate investor, on top of doing your other things. It's a great source of extra income. And I will say, starting out in like our backyard, like where we live, was very helpful because we kind of became like the experts in the area we are in. And honestly, our homeowners love that we are just like down the street from them. Like they love that.
Totally. Because they know that you can get there if you really need to, if like there's an emergency, right?
100%. We do have some remote properties, but it's typically the same owner here has reinvested their money and they have bought elsewhere and they have taken us with them. So that's another way to build your business. Like once you get 1 and get 2, I'm telling you, it's like a snowball effect and like the referrals start coming in.
Okay. So last question here is, with co-hosting, we've talked about how you're not on the hook for the furniture. You said maybe the place needs a facelift. How does that arrangement work? If you go to a homeowner or a landlord that you're trying to, co-host for, is it always the case that they pay for the furnishings? Like that is always the arrangement, right?
100%. That's the arrangement. We can provide our services. We can provide the install for them. Typically, we do charge extra for those services on top of our commission, but typically they're on the hook for at least purchasing those items. And I will say, if they're already getting a co-host, they're probably going to pay you to source the items too. Because again, you know the business, you know what furniture is going to work, you know what looks good, you know what's durable. So they're just going to trust you with those items. And that's like the best case scenario.
I actually have a couple students, they were telling me that they charge for that too. Like they'll charge a 15% material fee on like items that they buy. So if they go and spend 20 grand on furniture, they basically make 15% for spending the time to source it and get it all staged.
Yep, we've done that. I have, however, again, everything's a negotiation in this business. So we got a killer house that this owner didn't want to spend any more money on. So we actually ate the cost of the labor, but we made it back within like 6 months because this home was like killer. It was huge. So again, if you're going to get a huge, great house and you see the potential in it, it may be smart to like, you know, negotiate something so that you can build a relationship at the end of the day too.
Yeah, because, you know, wealthy, rich people with big houses usually have more than one. So
more than one. Yeah. And they're typically the hardest to negotiate with, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's video. There's a little bit left for you, but last call on my Black Friday / Cyber Monday deal ends tonight, right before midnight, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. And when you enroll in the HostCamp 6-Figure Host Academy, you're getting access to the HostCamp Masterclass, the GlampCamp Masterclass, the OPP Blueprint, which stands for Other People's Property, and the OPM Methodology, which is Other People's Money, where I will actually teach you to go out and raise money to fund and fuel your Airbnb business. You get access to those last 3 programs that I just named when you enroll in HostCamp, which is something I've never done before. So if you've been thinking about getting into the business, this is your chance to join me and my tribe of 2,200 students that are out there killing it, crushing it every single day, and being way cooler, more successful, and building way more cool Airbnbs than I ever could. But that is what HostCamp is all about, creating a community that changes the short-term rental industry for the better. I'm gonna leave a link in the description down below for you to learn a little bit more. Otherwise, let's finish up this video.
Well, awesome. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. It at least just shows what's possible. I think you're such an amazing story. 4 years, 50 properties, making crazy money, not owning the property. And then I'd like to hopefully think that eventually you're going to parlay some of that sweet, sweet juice that you're making into owning some properties, right?
So soon. We can like taste it. It's like right there. So soon.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. I'm going to keep you accountable to that. Well, listen, you spoke at HostCon and everybody raved about you. And I think you were so inspirational to everybody. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you. How can people find out more about you and learn more about you if they want to connect and reach out and all that good stuff?
Thank you so much. So you could find me on MBX Homes or on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
Awesome. We'll also be linking down below all of our profiles and all that good stuff where you can connect with Mercedes. This has been an amazing episode of Raw Built where we really got into the nitty gritty of co-hosting. And yeah, if you guys like and subscribe to this, I'll bring Mercedes back on. So it's on y'all. Yeah. All right. Catch you guys on the next episode of Raw Built. Bye.
Bye.